I'm Tyler.
I'm Zubair.
I am a Christian.
Probably calling me an atheist if you insist on a label.
I voted for Trump 3 times.
I think he's a fascist.
I'm an omnivore.
No animal flesh, no animal secretions.
And we're best friends.
We talk about everything and we disagree on a lot.
All right. Welcome to Zubair's Grotto.
We are live.
All right. Yeah, this is my roof. So plan for today, I want to go through prophecy. I figure we'll talk economics, the war, and whatever else comes to the top of our minds. But I limit this to 15 minutes because I think about if you told me, I want to read your horoscope, my initial impression, if you weren't my friend, would be like, what a waste of time. But if you were my friend, I'd be like, all right, I'll humor you. Like, tell me what Aries is talking to Sagittarius about.
So on that topic, I've noticed that there's like a huge gender divide when it comes to horoscope. I won't say which, but there is one gender that really likes horoscopes. But the reason I'm bringing this up is for the gender that doesn't like horoscopes, you get a really good sense of what kind of person they are based on their reaction. If they're immediately dismissive, you're like, oh, okay, this person has some rough edges. If they're willing to play along, you're like, all right, they they get that it's not really about the horoscope. They're maybe a little bit more receptive to the social dynamics.
Socially adept and
That's the
adroit.
word.
Yeah, I'm definitely hard reject, hard pass on the astrology kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't believe in it at all, but I love seeing what's in a fortune cookie. So I figure if I like fortune cookies, I will tolerate someone talking about horoscopes just to see how they interpret it.
The interesting thing is there's definitely scripture that talks about there being astrological signs that correlate to things on Earth.
Oh,
And so this is like not
biblically approved.
this is not something that Christians should reject out of hand, but I reject it. And I think it's because there's also passages that talk about rejecting divination, rejecting, looking to the heavens for signs. Because, I mean, frankly, it's so stinking awesome that it would be easy to just get caught up in doing nothing but astronomy all day, every day. But yeah, I think I put it in the divination / witchcraft camp.
Got
So
it.
I say that's maybe there is something there, but if it's there, then actually that will
It's
get people
taboo.
to believe in something that is other than the power of God.
That's interesting. So you actually think it's
I think there might be something to it, but I think that something to it will be demonic rather than inspired.
music because I think it's popular with the kids these days. So you think it's haram?
It's haram.
I just don't believe it.
Yeah, I guess I haven't really thought that much about why I react so negatively to it. Initially, it was just like, oh, it's just a bunch of bogus nonsense. I told you about my brother having me take the Big 5 personality test
No, I
and how I
hate
hate those.
Okay, but I take them every time. Like, there's nothing to them.
I don't, but my family really likes them, and so I'll do them because they're like, oh, it just helps me to relate to you and understand who you are. And my big hang up with this is it gives you a snapshot at one point in time that is majorly influenced by the argument I had last night, what I had for breakfast this morning, and what I'm currently thinking about today.
Right?
And so now you know who I am on April 16th, 2026.
So when I started at American Express, they had me take one of those dumb tests. I remember it was called Strength Finder.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I had to do that too during hard.
But when you start a new job, you're real vulnerable. And so I was impressed that they gave me a book at all. I was like, oh, you guys like reading. You value reading. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, maybe there's something to this. Like this American Express is 150 years old. They probably know what they're doing. And I totally bought into it. Like I dove in. I tried to be honest. And I forget what it told me. I mean, probably, whatever corporation thinks workers need to hear to be more productive.
My biggest fault is that I'm too hardworking.
My biggest areas for growth are that I need to be more pliable and listen to authority. But it was like 6 or 9 months later. I stick with things. I remember things. And so I was like remembering what the Strength Finder test told me. I was like, I feel like some of that stuff might be wrong. Did I just revalue my whole personality just because I started a new job? And I actually, so they gave me the book for free, and the first test is for free. And of course, it's a racket where you pay like $40, right, to take the test. But I paid the $40 again, took it again 6 or 9 months later, and then compared my results. Drastically different. So to your point, like, yeah, they give you a snapshot of a person that is more like a river than a portrait.
Yep. On that subject, we are stuck in time. Here we are in 2026. We are temporal beings.
So we're going to take the first 15 minutes as an intro, like, since we're tangenting off like this.
Yeah. We're stuck in time.
Or at least we're gripped in it, and we can't seem to change the speed or direction.
There are great spiritual forces at war around us that have been warring for thousands of years.
That part always confused me with like an omnipotent creator.
Mhm.
Who's he warring with?
One of his creations that rebelled.
But I mean, of course, it's no contest, right?
It does seem the outcome is predetermined.
Even if it wasn't, like, if we talk about it in Dragon Ball Z terms, this is like Krillin going up against like Frieza. Or you know your Dragon Ball Z better than I do.
No.
Like, it's just not a contest.
Yeah. I don't know how that works. It has something to do with the space-time continuum gobbledygook, and God is outside of time and Satan isn't.
Oh. Okay. All right. I'll take it as forgiven then. Spiritual forces.
Part of the dogma.
There is a war.
There's a war.
What are they fighting for?
I think Satan is trying to do as much damage to God as he can because he hates him. And the best way to do that is through his kids.
I was about to say this sounds a lot like a parent-child relationship that goes toxic.
I mean, create a creation, so not far off.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think Satan's trying to get to us, to you and me, cause the world to be as painful and miserable as possible.
Okay.
For some reason, God doesn't just make it. Here's the sign in the sky. You should believe in me.
Does that immediately defeat Satan's purpose once you believe in God?
Maybe, but not permanently. At least not. I don't think I do. I don't believe that it permanently defeats his purpose, because I think he's going to continue trying to trip you up, cause you to do things that you shouldn't do, whether you have placed your faith in God or not.
So Satan is our eternal temptation
And an external being.
and an external.
So I'm actually having a conversation about the sin nature and how human beings are born. And there are lots of verses that talk about us being actually now, because of Adam's sin, corrupted in our internal motivations. And not just tempted externally, like Adam was or Jesus was. So now, it's not just that we are tempted by bad things, it's that we want to do bad things. Maybe that's true from birth. Maybe you learn it. I lean heavily towards the you learn it camp, but either way, we do bad stuff and we want to do bad stuff.
Yes, this is true.
There's a battle for the mind, for the will, for the soul. And God doesn't just go God mode on us and say, annihilate all the opposition.
You will believe.
You will believe. He's doing something here on this planet. This little dust speck hurtling through space at who knows how many millions of miles an hour.
Training myself so hard not asking about aliens. That has always been an interesting intersection with theology for me.
Yeah. The Bible talks about different ages, a new age to come. The heavens will be rolled up like a scroll. The elements are going to be destroyed with intense heat. And there will eventually be a new heavens and a new earth.
Okay.
Maybe that means a different location on a different star. I don't know. Or
Does
maybe
sound
it's
a lot
going to
like
be
a supernova.
I mean, that would be definitely one way to make that happen. Who knows? Maybe he's running like billions of stories at the same time and we just have no idea about it. But this is definitely the story that's happening here on this planet. By the way, we're never going to Mars. It's not going to happen.
You don't think so?
No.
I think we do it. Like with
We're not going to colonize the moon.
Isn't that exactly what Artemis was for, though?
No, Artemis was to be like, look, We can do it. We can do a spaceship around the moon. Think about the weight of water that you would have to transport up onto a planet or a moon and keep there perpetually. You have to run the entire hydrologic cycle synthetically in some kind of captive system that has no atmosphere, by the way. So good luck.
How do they do it on the ISS? Because they do.
They do. Yeah, they recycle their pee.
Oh man.
It's like, I don't know, multi-year-old pee that you're drinking. That's not true. That's not how chemistry works.
I mean, yeah, isn't that true of us?
Yeah.
And
Well,
drinking
yeah,
dinosaur
exactly.
pee?
I think of it because it filters down through the dirt or evaporates up into the sky, that everything gets left behind, but that might not be true. Anyways,
So
we're not colonizing the moon or Mars.
I hope you're right about that, because that it's like our cancer on Earth.
Won't spread to other planets.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that there is something unique about this. By the way, why is it that no matter which direction we look, we see 14.8 billion year old light? Why isn't it 2 billion that way, but 18 billion that way?
Best explanation I've come to make it make sense for me is that the universe must be something like 500 billion light years wide.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this enormous ocean, and we're just a drop. And because of that, it seems like we can see the same distance everywhere.
So we just can't see anything further than 14.8 billion light years.
Yeah. We have no idea how much further it actually goes.
I don't think that's how the science works. I think that the way the science works means that we functionally cannot tell whether or not we are at the center of the universe. But we'll have to look into that. That's just a factoid in my brain.
That we cannot tell whether we're at the center.
Whether or not we are at the center.
Well,
Which would be
we're not in the
highly
center.
coincidental.
We're not at the center of the universe because the complexity isn't uniform directed at us. So, like right now, desert as far as we can see.
Yep.
What reason do we have for thinking that we're in the center of the desert just because as far as we can see is desert?
Hmm.
We know Phoenix like up towards the north of the Sonoran Desert actually,
Yeah.
but we just with the universe have no way of expanding our view to actually know where the borders are because we haven't seen them. We haven't come across them.
Hmm. That could be. All right.
Prophecy is what we're talking about.
Prophecy. I struggled for a long time thinking, which one am I supposed to do? And at the end of it, I've come down to, this is probably not going to convince you anyways, so I'm trying to take the pressure off myself. But I'm thinking then, why isn't this going to convince you? Because it convinces me.
Okay.
But I'm already convinced. So I decided to go with the multiple prophecies that Jesus fulfilled.
Okay.
Because I think that that is more persuasive over time. You had two criteria for your prophecies: specificity and time bound.
Yes.
I think that we can get to time bound because there are a few prophecies that talk about the Messiah coming to the Second Temple. The prophet who is speaking during the Second Temple period says the Messiah is going to come to this temple, which means.
Could you explain the Second Temple?
I'm sorry. So the first temple is built by Solomon in about 1000 BC. It's destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar in 587.
Is that the first time the Jews had like a home of their own? So like after they left?
Yeah, this is they've come and they've conquered Canaan. They've made it Israel, and now David has set up his throne center in Jerusalem. He wants to build the temple, but he can't. His son does.
Generations after Noah or Moses, I guess.
Moses is about 1400 BC.
Was it 400 years to get a temple?
Yeah, because they're conquering Canaan in the interim time. So there's a lot that goes on between Moses and David, which is basically called the period of the Judges. So this is the period where you've got Joshua in the Battle of Jericho, and you've got Samson and Gideon and a couple of other stories.
Okay, so the temple is just important because it's Like the holiest of holy sites? Is it like the Kaaba?
It is essential for Jewish religious worship. Before the temple, you have the tabernacle, which is just a tent form of the temple. You have to go to the tabernacle to sacrifice. You have to be able to get your remission of sins through this ritual of what all the different rituals that they have for various different kinds of sins.
And so it gets destroyed in 500.
587, Nebuchadnezzar comes in, destroys it. They're deported to Babylon. They are undeported by Cyrus, the Persian conqueror, in about 538.
Okay, so just a generation.
Yeah, so they're there. They're deported really in between. Nebuchadnezzar attacks Israel multiple times, Jerusalem multiple times. He starts deporting in 605, finishes deporting, I guess, 587. That would be the last time. And then they all begin returning to the land at about 538. So there's a 70-year captivity period here. And one of the things that Jews really want to do is rebuild their temple because it's the central portion of their worship. They rebuild the second temple, and they're sorely disappointed because it's not nearly as good as the first one, as seen by some of the oldest guys who saw the first one. There are prophecies about the Messiah coming to the second temple. The second temple is destroyed in 70 AD by the Romans.
And the prophecies about the second temple started being said once the second temple was built. So it's like
Precisely.
they had knowledge of. Okay.
Precisely.
Okay.
So you have this period of these prophets between the 500s and the 400s talking about, among other things, the Messiah and how he's going to come. So I think we have a time-bound prophecy about the Messiah, that he must come before 70 AD, because after 70 AD, there's no more temple to come to.
Okay. They didn't know the temple was going to be destroyed, though, did they?
They didn't.
Well, they just said he was going to come here. So that their prophecy, in their minds, wasn't time bound. Like if we say
Yeah.
aliens are going to come to the White House.
Yeah.
We're not saying is that
There's a restriction on
2200?
time. But we would clearly be proven false if the White House were destroyed. Then you couldn't have aliens coming to the White House at some point in the
Sure.
future.
Okay. And 70 years after 70 AD is pretty far after Jesus.
40 years.
Okay.
He was executed in 30-ish AD, somewhere around there, 27 to 33.
Okay. So that they have, I think we're stretching, but I'll give you the time bound.
Okay. So specificity, I think, only gets clear as you read more and more of the prophecies, because the prophecies are only going to get narrower as you stack them on top of each other, right? These are cumulative, which makes the probability of fulfillment much, much worse.
They're all about the Messiah.
Yeah.
So here's a question then. Presumably the Jews still believe in these prophecies, right?
Yes.
So how do they reconcile the second temple dynamic?
Yeah.
With these prophecies? Is it just not going to happen? Did they miss it?
They believe that the Messiah must rebuild the temple.
But wouldn't it be the third temple then?
It sure would. It doesn't say he'll come to the second temple. It just says he will come to this temple.
This temple, okay.
And that's when Zechariah is alive.
Why haven't they done that?
There's been an inconvenient mosque in the way.
Muhammad.
And 2,000 years of additional tensions in the Middle East continue. So I think that because Jesus fulfilled the prophecies before the second temple was destroyed, we could say the Messiah had to do these things within this period of time. The Jews are going to say the messianic prophecies are either not messianic, they're about Israel, not the Messiah.
Oh,
They'll say that, well, let me just pull up the list because I was doing this afternoon.
so how many do we have?
So I did 25, 26,
We have 26.
28. So 28 because I had said, AI list the prophecies for me and the general rebuttals to these prophecies.
Okay.
So we'll go through a couple of them. I think as we layer on the prophecies, we're going to get so narrow that it is impossible to conclude otherwise. Either the messianic prophecies are about Jesus or they're about nobody.
Okay.
But I think that the rebuttals to these prophecies sound good on their own until you realize they keep using the same excuse for the same thing. So one of the major excuses is going to be that the Christians just wrote Jesus in the way that he would fulfill prophecy. There are a couple problems with that theory. The first one is it was highly convenient that the Old Testament, from where they got all these prophecies, just so happened to fit the things that Jesus couldn't change about his life or about his death that happened to fit in with prophecy. That canon wasn't changed over time. It's not as if the Jews or the Christians later decided, actually, these books in the Old Testament don't really fit. They say the Messiah will do this and Jesus didn't do that, so we're just going to ignore it. This was already solidified as Jewish canon before Jesus shows up on the scene.
When did the Old Testament crystallize?
So the last prophet was around 400 BC,
Okay.
and the Jews, we have records of them saying around the 150 era, they know there are no more prophets. God hasn't sent us any more prophets. So at least by 150 BC, the Jews have decided this is it. So we've got a fixed text to work from, and it's not as if we can say, "Ooh, we like 38 of these 39 books, but that one book we can't reject because that says, the Messiah will do something that Jesus didn't do."
So your claim is that if one were to make a comprehensive list of every prophecy in the Old Testament, Jesus has fulfilled every one of them, whatever number that ends up being, whether it's 28 or 280.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has, but he's also going to fulfill a good deal of them in the second coming.
I
So
see. Okay.
I think that's
So there's that issue too.
that's an issue to say. If it's not fulfilled yet, it will eventually be.
Okay.
The
So that
di-
makes the claim less strong than.
Yeah,
imagine.
I agree. There is one of the major problems Jews have with Jesus, and the reason they missed him the first time is because they expected a conquering king. And he wasn't a conquering king, he was a suffering servant. And the problem there is that you have both kinds of messianic prophecies. And so to reconcile them, you can say either this conquering king is going to be a suffering servant or is going to be one and then the next. But I don't think that you have, I think it is typical of a prophecy to have multiple fulfillments. And I think there's a good functional reason for that. For example, Isaiah is living around 700 BC. He prophesies to King Ahaz.
This was before the Second Temple.
Yes,
Okay.
700 BC, before even the
Deportation.
deportation.
Yeah.
He says, "Don't worry about these kings that you're afraid of." He says to King Ahaz, "Ask for a sign from God that everything's going to be okay." And Ahaz says, "No, I'm not going to ask for a sign." And so Isaiah says, "Then the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin shall be with child, and before the child's old enough to eat curds and whey," which means before he's old enough to know right from wrong, "these two kings that you're afraid of are going to be destroyed." That prophecy is fulfilled during Isaiah's time. And also, the virgin shall give birth is a prophecy in the future. It talks about this child. His name is going to be Emmanuel, which means God with us, which is exactly who Jesus was. That he's going to be the Prince of Peace and so on. It was important for Isaiah's prophecy to be proved true in the near term, because if it wasn't, now Isaiah is a false prophet. We don't write down his words. We don't preserve this long prophecy. So I think it is functionally important for the prophet to have both near and long-term fulfillments.
So in my very limited and mostly unsuccessful attempts at seeing the future, I found that those two types of vision are very, very different. Understanding what's going to happen next week or next month is almost a categorically different type of knowledge than trying to see what's going to happen even 30 years from now.
Yes. I think that lends weight to the fact that if God does fulfill both things simultaneously, it cannot be anything other than divine revelation, because that you would be very hard pressed to make the same prediction happen tomorrow and also 20 years from now.
So if you have it memorized, could you repeat the prophecy of Isaiah?
Isaiah.
Yeah.
I don't have it memorized. It's Isaiah 7. Lord spoke again to Ahaz, saying, "Ask for a sign for yourself from the Lord your God. Make it as deep as Sheol or as high as heaven." But Ahaz said, "I will not ask, nor will I test the Lord." Then he said, "Listen now, O house of David." Ahaz is one of David's great-great-great-grandsons. It's also prophesied that the Messiah will be a son of David, that he will be one of his offspring. "Is it too slight a thing for you to try the patience of men, that you will try the patience of my God as well? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold,
A virgin will be with child and bear a son, and she will call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. He will eat curds and honey at the time he knows enough to refuse evil and choose good. For before the boy will know enough to refuse evil and choose good, the land whose two kings you dread will be forsaken. The Lord will bring on you and on your people and on your father's house such days as have never come, as since the days of Ephraim separated from Judah, the king of Assyria. So that was 15 minutes.
Let's go another 15. We spent a little bit more time on this. We're right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
A couple things stand out to me there.
Okay.
First, I think the virgin with child prophecy narrative is incredibly common throughout the Middle East and the Near East. Let's say the Indians, the Persians,
The Egyptians.
yeah, they all have this holiness around the idea of a virgin child. But I don't think, so I think that would be something I'd expect to be common amongst any religious figure. So I'm not surprised that, that's phrasing that Isaiah comes up with.
Okay.
And then the second thing, more related to the prophecy, it seems like an odd thing to say, these two kings that you're worried about in the here and now, 700 BC, are going to be destroyed before this kid grows up. But the kid's not getting born until 700 years later.
No, both things happen. There's an actual woman who gives birth to an actual baby, and before he's 3 or 4, the land that is oppressing him, it's actually northern Israel and Syria.
So there was another virgin birth.
There was another, I don't know, I think virgin is another word for a young woman. This woman gives birth to a child.
Okay, I thought in Christianity, virgin birth was Jesus and only Jesus.
It is, but the word in Hebrew means young woman or virgin.
Gotcha. Okay, so that is an important clarification. The whole time I thought we were talking about Jesus here.
Well, we are, that's the point. It's a double fulfillment.
So you're saying they're using a Greek pun of young woman and virgin?
They wrote this, the prophecy is written in Hebrew.
Okay.
Alexander the Great conquers the entire known world. Greek is now the lingua franca of Israel.
Okay.
They translate the Old Testament into Greek. There's a special word for this. It's called the Septuagint. So when they translate that Hebrew word, which means young woman or virgin, in Greek, it's parthenos, which is virgin. I don't know if it can also mean young woman in Greek, but yes, I think it was a linguistic pun by God.
You did say he's a poet. All right, so that completely changes. I didn't realize that's what we were talking about.
I see. Yeah, the fulfillment. I should have explained. There is going to be a young woman who gives birth to an actual baby boy named Emmanuel during Ahaz's time, which is how Ahaz is going to have confirmed to him Isaiah is telling the truth.
So that happened. There was, well, I mean, as soon as Isaiah says there's going to be a kid named Emmanuel from a young woman, all of a sudden, a young woman will be like, "I'm naming my kid
Emmanuel.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there was somebody already pregnant or if this woman is related other ways somehow, but it does actually happen. We know that this prophecy happened in 734, and in 2 years, both of those nations were destroyed by Assyria.
Naming of the kid, just focusing on the near-term prophecy.
Yep.
Naming the kid, I think that dynamic just plays out the way I said. The calling out accurately that 2 kingdoms are going to be destroyed.
Yep.
I think that is real foresight. If you had that. So my next question would be, did Isaiah make a lot of these types of statements, a lot of these types of predictions? Because when you look at modern day quote unquote prophets, like who's the guy who's always red and yelling?
Shotgun approach. Red and yelling?
Yeah, he's always red and yelling. He's got fancy watches. Those are gay. They're turning okay.
Alex Jones.
That guy. One of my favorite movies is Waking Life, by Richard Linklater. And it's just like the series of short conversations of semi-interviews with real people. And as you're hearing them talk about these really cool ideas, like the nature of how human society progresses and how our mind works and all this really cool stuff.
Yep.
Their faces change. and Alex Jones.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's in it. So
Interesting.
you wouldn't expect it in a movie that's one of my favorites, but he's in it for like a short section, and he's like driving in this car, and he's like doing this thing. Yeah, I don't know if he says the frogs are becoming gay, but he does talk about how the government's controlling us and they're using media to change our minds, and like it's like stuff I'm getting on board with. But then he keeps talking, like his face gets redder and bigger and redder, like his voice gets louder and louder, and then it's like coming out of this megaphone on top of his car. And it just goes off the deep end. But I bring him up because he's an example of
A shotgun prophet.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So how do we know Isaiah's not a shotgun?
I think that we could read all of Isaiah. It's 65 chapters.
But
Um,
I mean, presumably those are just snippets of what he said, right?
True, but it's not as if the Jews or even the Christians later like excised parts of Isaiah they didn't like or added in parts to Isaiah that they did want.
Got it. So someone in his lifetime picked these prophecies.
Yep.
To write down, and
So-
many of them are prophecies about things much further.
I think
Time.
that kind of the brilliance of this is that it's both. He's
Okay.
preserved in the near term, proved to be a prophet, and it's a prophecy about a more important future reality.
So the more important future ones are, I think, the ways we can assess whether he's a shotgun prophet or not. But the near term one, like his greatest hits,
Yeah.
I don't know if we can tell from the book of Isaiah whether he was a shotgun prophet.
How many prophecies did he actually make? We
Right.
don't know. These are the ones that stuck because they were right.
They were his greatest hits.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So I think that we should immediately, just because it's on top of my mind, go to Isaiah 53, because same dude makes this prophecy. I told you this guy lived around 700 BC. There is no way that this could have been written anytime earlier or later than around, I don't know, call it 500.
Is this the crucifixion piece?
That's Psalm 22, but also
Okay.
Psalm 22 is inescapably pierced, but
Isaiah is going to use similar language. It's actually 50, starting in 52. This is one of his greatest hits, according to the old people who were listening to Isaiah and said, hey, we need to write this down in 700 BC-ish. Behold, my servant shall deal prudently. He shall be exalted and extolled and be very high. As many as were astonished. I'm reading the King James. Why am I reading the King James? Behold, my servant will prosper. He will be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. Just as many were astonished at you, my people, so his appearance was marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men.
you're familiar with the crucifixion, how he was beaten, flogged, and had his beard ripped out, had a crown of thorns shoved on his head, and then crucified.
Didn't know about the beard ripping.
So as he's getting, he's on trial. Basically, it's a show trial. They want him dead. They beat him, and then they rip his beard out.
Sounds painful.
So he was marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. Thus he will sprinkle many nations. Kings will shut their mouths on account of him, for what had not been told them they will see, and what they had not heard they will understand. The word sprinkle here is used specifically in the sense of this ritual that I was talking about, the Jews' religious practices. You would take the blood and you would actually sprinkle the individual. That's how atonement happens. That's how the remission of sins happens. And so it's interesting that we're using the same word here, specifically this ritualistic sacrifice that provides for atonement of sins. And it's talking about a human being, which was definitely not okay in the Jewish religion. You didn't sacrifice human beings. Who's believed our message? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Even though God is showing his hand here, very few people are actually going to believe this. For he grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of parched ground. He had no stately form or majesty that we should look upon him, nor appearance that we should be attracted to him. Jesus wasn't a supermodel. It wasn't as if people came to him because he was born in a palace. He was born in a stable. He was despised and forsaken of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and like one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we did not esteem him. Surely our griefs he himself bore, and our sorrows he carried. Yet we ourselves esteemed him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. He's nailed to the cross, and people are mocking him, saying, well, obviously, he wasn't the Son of God, because if he was, he wouldn't be up there. He's there because he did something wrong, because he blasphemed, so he must be smitten of God. But he was pierced through for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities, and the chastening for our well-being fell upon him. And by his scourging we are healed. All of us like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way. But the Lord has caused the iniquity of us all to fall on him. There is no other concept in Judaism that even comes remotely close to this concept of somebody else bearing the sins of everybody else. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth, like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that is silent before its shearers, so he did not open his mouth. He didn't say anything when he was on trial, because he knew that he was going to the cross. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living for the transgression of my people, to whom the stroke was due. His grave was assigned with wicked men, yet he was with a rich man in his death, because he had done no violence, nor was there any deceit in his mouth, but the Lord was pleased to crush him, putting him to grief. If he would render himself as a guilt offering, which again is not kosher Jewish practice, he will see his offspring. He will prolong his days. And the good pleasure of the Lord will prosper his hand. As a result of the anguish of his soul, he will see it and be satisfied. By his knowledge, the righteous one, my servant, will justify the many, and he will bear their iniquities. Therefore I will allot him a portion with the great, and he will divide the booty with the strong, because he poured himself out to death, and was numbered with the transgressors. Yet he himself bore the sin of many, and interceded for the transgressors.
So let me react to that in a few different ways. First, I can see why it's resonant, because it is essentially describing the story of Jesus, right? I forget which book it was that you had me read.
John.
And I remember my big takeaway to you was it doesn't matter whether or not the words of the Bible are accurate at all, because the story is so unique, so resonant. God's son comes, and instead of being a king or a conqueror, he humbles himself for the lowest of us all. And I said, like, that story is timeless and will survive regardless. And that is like the central teaching, right? And that's being repeated here in this passage in a different way. So I can see why it's resonant to you, because it's taking what's most beautiful about Christianity, and saying it in a different way. Now, if we're going to talk about its prophetic elements, this is where my mind goes. I think the descriptions are broad, and similar to how you said earlier, I think that's accurate. Like, I think this is a description that could be applied to any man. He's sorrowful, he's beaten down, he's marked. Not any man. Like, you wouldn't apply it to
Which
John,
other man?
right?
Name one other man.
You want me to name men that have been beaten down by history?
That fulfills
Oh.
53.
So everything that you read is 53. Okay, so that's not what I was pointing to, but the part that I was pointing to was one of many composite statements that were made in it. So it's not it's not specific. This is, if we're gonna restrain a prediction to specificity, this is a composite prediction of, I'd say, maybe like 20, 25 different predictions.
Yeah.
There will be a man that is like this. There will be a man that is like that.
Yep.
And if we ignore the sacrifice element, many of those descriptors are broad enough that you could pick a host of people from today, from any point in history that would meet them, that are beaten down, that are sorrowful, that are pierced or bludgeoned, that are scourged.
That are killed and then see their offspring and prolong their days.
So I missed that part. It says that this person will be resurrected, essentially.
By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off from the land of the living for the transgression of my people. Not only was he killed, he wasn't even killed for his own sins. He was killed for somebody else's sins, for the sins of my people,
He's saying he was cut off, right?
from the land of the living.
So that could be imprisonment, right?
No, that would be cut off from society.
Yeah. So it's just a poetic way of saying he died. He was killed.
He died.
Yeah, killed specifically for the transgression of my people. His grave was assigned with the wicked men. He's nailed between two criminals.
Yeah.
Yet, he was with a rich man in his death. Joseph of Arimathea, a rich man, takes his body, puts him in his own tomb, because he'd done no violence, nor was there any deceit in his mouth. The Lord was pleased to crush him, putting him to grief if he would render himself as a guilt offering, which you would not do. He will see his offspring, the guy who just got killed. He will prolong his days, and the good pleasure of the Lord will prosper his hand.
So if he's speaking in this poetic register,
Mm-hmm.
I think it is a stretch to, or I don't think it's stretched to say that he's maybe not speaking sequentially. That just because he will see his children comes later in the passage, then his grave.
Take just this verse then. If he would render himself as a guilt offering, do you know what you do with a guilt offering?
I don't really know what the phrase means.
You kill it.
Yeah.
The guilt offering never survived.
If he renders himself as a guilt offering, he will see his offspring. He will prolong his days.
So that's the full sentence.
That's and the good pleasure of the Lord will prosper his hand.
Okay. I mean, that sentence to me doesn't necessarily imply, it doesn't clearly state resurrection. You could get there, right? It could be a poetic way of saying, if he goes through with being the guilt offering, that's what you take render to mean.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow he will see his children even after, because he will be resurrected.
Mhm.
I think if Isaiah was making a prophecy, right, or
Yeah.
delivering news about events from 700 years ago,
Yep.
and resurrection was part of the prophecy,
Yep.
I think it would be more prevalent, because this could be read either way. It could also be read as, if he agrees to be the offering, presumably, he's in some terrible position where other people have power over him.
Yeah.
He will be allowed to see his children before the sacrifice occurs.
He will prolong his days.
So maybe, like, you could read that as they promise him
You can live for another week.
4 years, right? Like, we'll fat you up like a golden cow.
Uh,
You get pampered, and then at the end we're going to sacrifice you. Like, there's just another interpretation. So, which is not resurrection. Resurrection.
If this was a pagan prophecy, that would make sense. This is a Jew.
So let's get to that point, because I think that's the main thing I want to get to.
Yeah.
You're pointing to this religion where sacrifice is an essential element. The Jews already have this mechanism for getting rid of their sins by sacrificing their possessions, maybe, like they
Yep.
give gold to the temple by sacrificing animals.
Specifically animals, yeah.
But I'm imagining there's a gradient, right? Like if you sacrifice a chicken, it's not as
Right.
serious as if you sacrifice like a healthy ox.
Right.
So the steps are there. The the logic is already there. If we, you know, hopefully this isn't too crude, use finance as an analogy.
Mhm.
In the 2000s, when they first started bundling mortgages together
Yep.
and saying, yeah, we should totally have CDOs. It just makes more sense.
Mhm.
It, spreads the risk around,
Everything works better. We're all getting filthy rich.
right? And all those things happen.
Uh-huh.
The next step, it's not a huge leap to say, oh yeah, we're going to bundle the CDOs together.
Uh-huh.
Like CDOs. In that same way, like if you already have this religion where sacrificing property and then living beings of different values, increasing values, gets you more atonement, more spirituosity. The next logical step is at some point sacrificing people.
Except that people were already around them doing human sacrifice, and God said many times, don't do that. You are not allowed to do that. That is not okay. That is not something I've asked you to do. That is not something I want you to do.
And I think that's one of the reasons the morality of the Old Testament and the Jews still holds relevance today, because they recognize how wrong that is. But you can still see how the progression is there, right? So I think it would be very fitting, for lack of a better word, for someone who is prophesizing about how the religion might change
Mm-hmm.
thousands of years,
Mm.
say, there will be a time where this taboo is broken and the greatest thing of value will be sacrificed, but it will
Yes.
be for a great, great cause.
And I think ultimately that's the whole reason that sacrifice was instituted. Just like every other prophecy in the Bible, it all points towards the ultimate plan of God.
I think that's a less a prediction and more just a natural evolution of, like,
But we're not like all massively engaged in human sacrifice now. So we definitely have not evolved that way. If anything, it's the reverse. Like you don't even kill animals today.
yeah, thank goodness, right?
Yeah.
I could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
But if I guess I'm trying to put myself in Isaiah's mindset, right?
Yeah.
In 700 BC, when all the sacrificing was happening,
Mhm.
it would, in the crude analogy, like the guy who's seeing all the financialization and derivatives being formed in the early 2000s
Mhm.
could clearly say, well, let's do the derivatives off the derivatives,
CDO squared.
right?
Yeah.
In the same way, Isaiah, I think it would only be natural for him to say, there will be an ever greater sacrifice.
And this person is going to be not only sacrificed, but he is going to be despised and forsaken of men. He's going to bear our griefs. He's going to carry our sorrows. We're going to think that he's stricken by God. He's going to be pierced for our transgressions and crushed for our iniquities. And the chastening, the punishment that should have come upon us for our well-being is going to be falling upon him. He's going to be scourged, whipped, and we're going to be healed somehow through that scourging.
So, he's describing sacrifice logic there, right?
No, you don't whip a sacrifice. You don't beat a sacrifice.
You don't
You know?
know.
You take the animal in front of the altar, you slit its throat, and then you
That's it.
presume to proceed to either burn parts of it on the altar or I think they consumed some of it. I can't remember how much of it was eaten.
So then it's an evolution of the sacrifice logic. So let me ask, when Jesus met his end,
Mhm.
is it just the dying that redeemed all our sins, or is it all of the suffering? What was the mechanism?
That's a good question. I think that the reason that he suffered was because the wages of sin is death. And the natural consequence of all of our decisions is pain, suffering, and ultimately death. And he, as the perfect substitutionary atonement sacrifice, is taking on all of the stuff that we deserve, including the beatings and the scourgings and the crucifixion, and then ultimately dying. All of those consequences that we incur, he paid for.
Okay, so then the progression has changed. It seems like the sacrifice of the Jews is I will make useless the best in my life, and by doing so, God will bestow favor upon me. And what you're describing, and what Isaiah is describing here instead, is I will have a whipping boy, and the pain and terrible things inflicted on this whipping boy will make it so that the pain and terrible things that I am guilty of, I'm freed of or forgiven for.
The substitution.
Yeah, it's substitution rather than let me give you the best. Than a trade, right? Like those words are simple. Substitution rather than exchange, maybe, because the former seems like bartering, right? Like here's my best ox. In today's
My car.
Yeah, my car, right? Here's my car. Let me into having God. Like that's what it sounds like. Or sorry, I cheated on my wife. Here's my car. Um, versus taking an innocent being, like that there's this baby that's being electrocuted, so I don't have to be electrocuted. Or they're showing this baby, trying to come up with a good example, but I can't. Like, oh, all our food has to get tested on. There's this baby in BC, and they just test everything on the baby, and that's why you and I have safe food, safe water, and we can live good lives.
That would be heinous. I think that the voluntary nature of Christ's sacrifice was important.
Okay. He chose it.
And moreover, at any point in time, he could have stopped it.
We can leave the prophecy there. I think the conclusion that I've come to is for the near-term prophecies that Isaiah had. If he correctly, predicted 2 civilizations, 2 kings being destroyed, that is real foresight. I don't know if he was a shotgun prophet like Alex Jones. For the longer-term prophecies, I think we maybe should dive into that, because I think we just scratched the surface. But the one that you shared to me seems more like a progression / subversion of existing sacrifice logic in the Old Testament.
I think I can agree to that.
Yeah.
I think ultimately what was actually going on is that God was having them build in a picture of their Messiah one day coming. But one would assume that he did that so that they wouldn't miss it, and then the vast majority of them missed it. So I'm not really sure why. They had sacrifices for 1,000 years. All right.
So, what should we talk about next?
Well, it's a natural segue into, so because of these beliefs, there's problems in the Middle East. Words are powerful. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will bring the world to its knees.
Where's the Prince of Peace when you need him?
He's coming back.
That's what the Shiites think too.
There's something about like the 7th Imam or
12th.
12th.
They think their Messiah is coming back. He's the 12th. I think I told you, grandnephew, grandson, Muhammad is supposed to come back at the end of the world.
Do we know what number we're on yet? If it's the 12th Imam, are we on number 11?
11 died.
Uh-oh.
So, these people died in like 780.
Oh.
Many years ago.
Okay.
So he is hanging out, I think, with Jesus in heaven, and then he's going to come back to earth at some point. And by they, I mean all Muslims.
Not just Shia Sunni.
Not just Shia Sunni.
Ooh, wow.
Consider Jesus to be the greatest of the prophets before Muhammad. That they think he is sitting up there next to God, and then right below him is Moses, because Moses spoke to God and argued with him. So I think that's how they rank them. They rank it Muhammad, Jesus.
I don't know the story of Moses arguing with God. I know God saying to Moses, I'm going to just incinerate this people because they're just so evil. And Moses says, wait, don't do it.
Maybe
That's
that's what it is.
Okay, I won't do it.
Proceeded. So, if Jesus is the Prince of Peace, why are Christians not up in arms across the globe for peace right now?
I think for the same reason that Christians aren't trying to get everyone to surrender all their guns everywhere. We recognize that there is a legitimate use of force, and that force can be used to preserve peace.
This is true. I don't think we're in a just war. I mean, the Iranian regime is evil. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Wholeheartedly evil. I still think somehow we're the bad guys in this conflict. We provoked. From what I can tell, the Iranians are telling the truth more than we are, it seems.
In what ways?
I mean, just their position on the strait. Let's take a very concrete example.
If you try to move a boat through the strait, we will bomb it.
Yeah. Whereas on the other hand, depending on the day, our president's like, 34 ships are going through the strait. No one's going through the strait.
I don't know anything about that. So they contradicted himself one right after the other.
Yeah. So he instituted the blockade last Sunday. We blockaded their blockade.
We double blockaded the strait.
And then, like, I think on Monday, Market wasn't doing exactly what he wanted, I think. He's like, 34 ships have already passed through the strait. This is, record numbers.
Is that like total since the beginning of the war?
No,
you're just saying today.
He was saying that day. Complete lie. Best we can tell, traffic through the strait has, over the last week, been maybe 2 or 3 Chinese tankers.
But aren't ships turning off their transponders so we wouldn't be able to tell?
This is true. There are people actually going to the strait. Like,
yeah, what's his face say? Yeah, what does he say about it?
I think he's on the wrong side of this. He says the strait's open for business now.
Dude, I think because I automatically am going to just jump to trying to figure out how to justify this war that is deeply uncomfortable, that Trump let slip that he actually knows there are a lot more boats going through the strait than we are supposed to be allowed to publicly acknowledge, and that you can't have come out. Otherwise, the Iranians are going to be like, oh, no, we're going to start bombing the ships again.
That's what they did today.
They bombed another ship?
They fired on ships today.
Then that's exactly what it was. I'm a genius politician, world guru. Trump let slip classified information accidentally. No, we've got 34 ships going through our day. What? Say the Iranians. Well, that's not going to happen anymore.
Because they can't tell.
Because I think as long as the narrative is the strait is closed, the guys with the remotes and the drones are happy to stay in caves and away from the strait. But if they perceive that they are losing leverage, they're going to go ahead and bomb another tanker in the strait. Can't say the quiet part out loud.
Okay, so you think Trump is hyper honest? And
I think he let slip and then realized he had to go eat his words, otherwise it was going to ruin his strategy.
okay, let's just talk about the duration of the war now. I think that is a clear example of our government being less truthful than the Iranians said this war is going to go on for as long as it will. Our president keeps saying it's going to be over tomorrow. It's already over. What are you talking about? There's no war.
Right. That's true.
And you asked me on one of our runs, sometime over the last 2 weeks, what we are being, color revolution, what we are being.
how we're being color revolution.
So getting hard to keep. We're 7 weeks into the war. I want to say in week 4. Did you pick up the headlines about like 7 planes from the Air Force being downed?
I saw that we lost. I would say if you'd asked me, I would have said 3.
Yeah, I think some of them we set on fire to prevent the Iranians from
We
getting
blew
them.
them up, I think, after they had crashed, so that the Iranians couldn't get
Yeah.
the tech and reverse engineer it.
And then there was that massive rescue operation to get our missing pilot
Missing
back.
pilot, we got him.
We got him.
That's amazing.
That's great news. He probably would have been tortured under the hands of the Iranians. Do you know what the Iranian narrative is of that weekend?
The Invincibles aren't so invincible.
Well, yes. But also, they came and tried to steal our uranium, is their narrative. So remember, right before that, I think I told you, and this was because Claude told me, and then I started seeing headlines about it in the newspapers. So clearly, we're all working. Pentagon, journalists,
It's all lies.
guy in Phoenix, we're all working off the same stupid LLMs, right? But the general idea that I got from the LLM and then was repeated in the paper, and I think was a real plan by the Pentagon, was that one way to quickly end the war would be to have a special operations mission into Iran. It's 1,000 pounds of uranium. Like build a runway, build an airport, under fire, extract it. So the Iranians are saying that weekend was that attempt.
Wow.
And our media, complete silence. I haven't seen a single story on our side about that.
Yeah. That makes sense that it was a failed mission.
The planes were about 15 minutes away from the Isfahan nuclear site. There was an old runway. And they were big cargo planes, not what you'd expect for like a rescue.
Oh, these weren't military jets?
They were big military cargo planes. They weren't.
I'm thinking they're like F-16s.
But these were like the ones with like like the 7 or 8 propellers. You can like load
Interesting.
like a tank can drive up into it. So
Wow.
I think that is an example of us in America.
Yeah.
Being completely
Media blackout.
Yeah.
That's probably the right thing to do. I remember telling you I thought it was treasonous that we are just broadcasting to the world, we're going to go build an airstrip in Iran and just fly the uranium out.
Definitely
like,
made it harder.
If that's your plan, maybe don't talk about it. So, yeah, as I move my knight to c4 on my next move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we the bad? I don't think that being dishonest in wartime indicates that we're bad guy. I think that's just like necessary tactics in war.
Fair. That's fair. What about the threat to kill an entire civilization? Does that make us the bad guy?
That tweet, I am convinced, was just Trump negotiation.
Yeah.
When my mother-in-law showed it to me, and my mother-in-law is less than conservative, she's like, I told you guys, don't vote for this psychopath. I didn't believe that it was him at first. I was like, this is just your liberal media feeding you garbage. And I looked it up and I was like, oh my gosh, he actually said that. Open the strait, you crazy bastards, or you're all going to live in hell.
And then later, a great civilization is going to die tonight. I hope it doesn't have to happen, but it's probably going to happen. That maybe makes it. I don't know. I don't know who the bad guy is.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure we're not the good guy.
I know that the IRGC is the bad guy.
I know that they are evil.
And so
I know they're not the good guys.
why is the enemy of your enemy not your friend? Whoever goes and kills people that kill their own citizens, why are they not automatically the good guy?
I'll say this now. If we nuke Iran, we are undoubtedly bad guys.
Because that is just
mass civilian slaughter, and that
Yeah.
totally wipes out any moral justification for going and saving these civilians. Oh man.
So this segment is ending.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe talk about where you see the war going, or what the current status is? Because I'm hyper tuned in, and I want to know if you're.
I am not at all tuned in. So maybe this will be a useful, what does the average uneducated conservative think about the war right now? So for that reason, we can engage.
Okay.
I'll talk first so that I don't just riff off of your ideas. What do I think about the war and where it's going? Well, at the outset, I said, give us a month. Well, now we're almost 2 months in. I did not perceive, even though now it's blindingly obvious, that this would actually be a benefit to US oil sales. I also did not perceive that this, while it's an inconvenience to the United States consumer, is a serious problem for the Chinese government. If Trump had come to the American public and said, I want to go bomb Iran because it'll be bad for China and good for us, nobody would have gone with it. He would not have sold me on that idea. Now that it's actually happened, I'm thinking that actually was a pretty smart move geopolitically.
To be determined.
TBD. It very much looks like there's a method to the madness, which is reassuring. Has Trump already accomplished what he needs, if in fact the goal actually was to hurt China? I think by virtue of the fact that ships are not moving, or very few ships are moving, and maybe we should see how much relative to average times China's actually getting, because maybe their ships are getting through just fine, and their oil passage hasn't slowed down at all, but I doubt that's the case. They get something like 50% of their oil goes to the Strait of Hormuz, which is...
And in the aggregate figures, about 130 ships a day passed through the strait before this all started. At most, I want to say like 10.
3, yeah. On average, it's 5, maybe 5 ships a day. So we're much less than 10% of actual passage, which means China is going to be in a world of hurt. Economically speaking, when we have our gas prices go up from $4 to $5 a gallon, we had a 20% price increase. I don't see how China gets away from this without serious repercussions to their economy. And so perhaps Trump's plan is to just park the ships in a quasi-permanent basis outside the strait. You said that we actually can't get our ships closer than like 1,000 miles to Iran because their ballistic missiles are so good. So how do we blockade something that we can't get within 1,000 miles of?
I didn't say that, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
You read it somewhere. I think we're blockading the entrance. So the strait is like the narrow part, 20 miles.
Yep.
I don't think that's where our blockade is. I think our blockade is around
Down at the end of the Persian
Yeah.
Gulf.
Yeah.
Even if we had like a giant semicircle like 1,000 miles away from Iran, because I think that's what we have to do, because I think that if their ballistic missiles can hit a naval base in the middle of the Indian Ocean, surely they can hit the USS whatever.
Maybe they just don't have accurate data.
I mean,
Honestly,
Russians will give them satellite data.
it's true. So will the Chinese.
So will the
And
Chinese.
they're at least Chinese are technologically depth.
So why wouldn't the Iranians hit an aircraft carrier?
They're worried. Maybe they're worried about a Gulf of Tonkin type moment. They don't want.
know this.
So the Gulf of Tonkin is the
Oh, that's how we got into the Korean War.
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
That's how we got into Vietnam. There was a speedboat that attacked the U.S. Navy ship. The Navy reported immediately and then made up a second repeat attack for some reason. Like we got attacked twice,
Man.
and for some reason, like the second attack, the lie. They felt it was necessary to rile up the public, and the public did get riled up. You know, we sent like, I want to say like 500,000 soldiers to Vietnam at the peak. So maybe Iran's worried about that. Like I don't think they actually want to face the full military might of the U.S. Army, because honestly, it wouldn't stand a chance.
But at this point, the only thing we haven't done is put boots on the ground. I wonder if actually Trump jujitsu'd Iran into a major mistake, because Iran bombed a whole bunch of oil production facilities all along the strait, all these other Gulf states.
Yep.
And that's exactly the people who are going to be manufacturing this oil that China needs.
And so even if the US pulls out today, oil production doesn't snap back.
No, they're saying this is like the worst case is Qatar, right? Like it's going to take 5 years for them to get back up to what
Yikes.
they were like before the war.
Yikes. So naturally the US will pay for that because they're one of our, they're not an ally, but they are presumably under the protection of the United States.
Yeah, you know, Exxon, Chevron, they're going to go in there. They're going to, you know, they're going to develop it.
And then Trump says, hey guys, how about you get some sweet, sweet Venezuelan oil, but you're going to have to pay for it on the backside in Iran, right?
So,
States.
okay, so that's your view. This may be all a plan to hurt China.
Yeah, maybe we can pull out tomorrow and mission accomplished.
So the problem with that I see is Iran is claiming sovereignty over the strait, and by doing so, elevating themselves to a world power, because now they essentially have a kill switch on the global economy at any point in time. So they get a seat at the table because of that, if they maintain control of the strait.
Global economy is not the same as the Eastern Hemisphere. I think we're moving into a hemisphere world order. Trump's going to invade Cuba.
Yeah, but we depend on global oil. Like
I don't think we do.
I think we import less than we export, but we still very much, like if the price of oil actually goes to like 200 a barrel.
Yeah.
I think we will feel that. Like, I don't think we're going to have a segregated economy here in the US.
Definitely. But are we going to get the worst end of that trade, or is China?
Definitely China. But it's not like we'll escape pain free. Like, you know, the fire starts in the kitchen, so maybe the garage isn't as bad, but the whole thing still burns.
I think that is a globalist mindset with which Trump rejects. And I think the Conservative Party has rejected globalism based on what we have been seeing happen to our country and our government expenditures, legislation, the Paris Climate Accords.
So it's all well and fine to turn your back on the globe and focus on your own country if you're not reliant on global flows to finance your domestic situation, which we are. The only reason we can spend $6 trillion a year when we only collect $4 billion of tax revenue is because the rest of the world finances us. That they pay for essentially our social security program. So we
pay for theirs. We pay for theirs. We were Europe's domestic security and global security, and they used the savings of those military expenditures to set up social programs.
This is true. We did subsidize them, but I think
We got the better end of that deal.
I don't know. I don't know if we did, because I don't think they're dependent on us in the way we're dependent on global financial flows. Like if the dollar loses its reserve currency status,
Yep.
which is essentially what it would mean if the world stopped financing us,
Mhm.
we have to make some serious changes at home. Like,
We are making some serious changes at home.
I don't think the tax rate is going up enough to pay.
I
for what we
agree.
do.
I agree. We're going to have to privatize Social Security.
Oh, yeah, that's your great idea.
We're going to invest Social Security at the very least. Take Social Security, invest it in the US stock market.
I would suggest diversified portfolio. Oh,
Okay, we'll
Stocks,
keep
bonds,
some of the
and
bonds.
international.
Some of the bonds, 10%.
even do private bonds, right?
Even if we had done 100% bonds, our rate of return would have been substantially better than what we actually got in our Social Security fund, which was something
Isn't that
like
what they invest in though?
I don't
thought they
think
invested
so.
in government bonds.
I think that's ostensible, but I don't think that's what actually happened, because I think the rate of return on bonds was substantially better than the rate of return we got in the Social Security fund.
It's been like 0% over like the 5-year period.
It's been almost nothing.
That's wild.
And it has been for the last 70 years. So yeah, since we set it up in the 30s,
The rate of return
it's
on
been
Social
almost
Security.
it's been like 1% real rate of return, which is atrocious.
Yeah, that's ugly.
7% real return would solve a significant amount of our portion of our unfunded liabilities, and we make the U.S. stock market even more robust.
It puts it in a better, it puts the fund in on better footing for sure, but it doesn't change the major problem that it's still underfunded and everyone's taxes on their paycheck has to go up if we want to keep the program running.
Yep.
Like everyone has to pay 50 or 100 bucks more.
As Social Security is currently formulated, it's a bald-faced lie.
Yep. I think if we do nothing, for folks like us, we're going to get something like 60 or 70% of
What we're promised.
not nothing, but
I think that's what I was telling my clients a couple of years ago. If you wait to claim until 2033, which is right around the corner, you're going to get about 70%. That's the latest projection. We are not retiring in 2033. You have to be 62 to claim. So that's going to put us solidly in the 2050s.
definitely going to be reborn by then. So I don't know what we'll get.
Yeah. So I think there's going to have to be a change in people's mindsets about how Social Security and generally entitlements work. But are we going to be able to right the ship, or are we just going to have to crash and get taken over? Either way,
Taken over by who?
I don't know. China?
We're not getting taken over. The United States is not getting conquered. We have 2 oceans as a moat. No one's getting anywhere close to us. We might not be able to project power like we used to,
Yeah.
but no one's coming on our course.
Great Britain thought they had a moat too.
And they didn't get invaded, not since 1072, I think.
They have been continuously invaded for the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years.
Ah, okay. Yeah, they do look very different today. Speaking of which, I think I'm gonna go see Hamlet this weekend. There's a new version.
Where at?
You're gonna hate this.
He's black. The Danish king is black.
I think they did that. I think one of the Owen brothers actually did that. It was Macbeth that he did black.
Well, the Moor, Iago, is black.
That is Othello.
That's Othello.
But the Hamlet that's new that came out last weekend,
Uh-huh.
it's set in modern day Britain, and it is Indian British people. You're gonna hate this. So you get
Oh, Indian people are like the least woke subculture. They are very hardworking. They're like almost like the
Okay.
meritocracy of the Indian culture is like the US on steroids.
it rivals the Chinese, I'd say.
Yeah. I went to an NHS induction ceremony for this guy I know. This kid who is Indian. And I'm looking at all the inductees, and it's like at least 50% South Asian.
Yep. One thing I will say, we are only seeing the best of the best. It's a country of 1.3 billion.
True.
I want to say probably like maybe 10 million Indians are in the US, if that.
Yeah. And they're all the brightest. H-1B visas.
Yeah, same thing with the Chinese, best of the best.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Because I mean, I don't think I've told you this, but this is probably a little racist of me to say, but I physically revolt when like people or shudder when people think I'm Indian. I know to like, is your phone still on? Is it still recording?
I think it is.
Okay. So I know to the audience, brown guy, Indian, part of the world. But white people look the same to us. My defense. Indians are about as different from Afghans as Germans are from
Australians.
Italians. Yeah, or Australians. I knew this Indian girl once, and we had this view that I think is common, that people who indicative of a much bigger problem. People who were abused as children sexually must have done something terrible in their past life.
Oh,
And on a similar note, there's a big Indian community in most tech companies. Google tried to add to their standard list of like non-discrimination categories like disability, race, sex, pregnancy. They tried to add caste, if I'm pronouncing that right.
oh my gosh.
And the employees revolted. they said no, that's prejudicial against Indians and South Asians. You can't have that.
As in, Google was trying to say it doesn't matter what your caste is,
And then
and the Indians rejected that.
yeah, they're like, no, it has to matter what your caste is. Like, so like these cultures have, and I don't know the Chinese culture well enough to criticize them. The one thing I have heard is don't ever ask for directions in China. They will lie to you even if they don't know. They will give you confident directions. But like both of these other cultures do have deep-seated structural problems. In addition to their strengths, right?
Yeah. This is the human condition.
Right.
We benefit from other cultures, other sects, other societies. And to the extent that we can assimilate the good and reject the bad, I think we would be better off. It's
That's
the
the American
rejecting
dream.
It's
That's
the
the American
rejecting the
project.
bad, though, that we have failed at. That's what's so repugnant about the woke, the left, the progressive wing. The good part is, let's assimilate all the new stuff. The bad part is, let's just not care at all whether that new stuff is terrible. And it seems to be like intentionally biased towards all the bad crap. But anyways,
I agree. It completely does. Culture for culture's sake is a silly position.
but the people are retarded.
That's the problem. That's the problem. And yet, better than any other system. Let the people decide.
Yeah. Yeah. So isms aren't helpful. They're helpful in that they allow you to think that you understand an issue, but you're just deceiving yourself because you're painting with a broad brush. I understand those people over there.
Yeah,
I understand that political party.
Right.
I understand, So isms, why do we have isms if they are fundamentally unhelpful? Maybe that they're helping us to bias other people in our favor. Maybe they're a tool of political control.
That might be it. I mean, God knows politicians are going to use every means
Trick
at
in
their
the book.
disposal.
Yeah.
But I think it's a much deeper thing. I just think we're unequipped to understand reality.
Shortcuts.
Our brain uses them all the time, right? Like, because there's like a, I don't know, however many nanosecond delay between like the processing of like your eyes getting to your brain, getting to whatever your decision making center. Your brain is actually trying to predict based on what it saw like a few seconds ago what's happening now. And like, I mean, just if you look at this roof, right? I'm going to call it white or gray. Like, really,
It's very complicated. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I just think isms are our way of
Dealing with too much information.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to make decisions. We have to make judgments. And we want to make the best, most truthful judgments because I think that we believe that that's going to lead to the most amount of human flourishing.
Mhm.
And I do not think that it is leading to flourishing to say, let's just all be multicultural. Let's just have a big melting pot. Because initially that wisdom was let's cross-pollinate ideas. Ideas are like viruses, man.
They are.
They stick around even after people die.
Yeah, look at Christianity,
It's infectious. It went viral.
right?
Some ideas should not be propagated. I hate Breaking Bad because it's an excellently told story and it's a bad story to tell, which means it's going to be viral in a negative way.
Hey, Sophocles.
Sophocles.
He cast that curse on all of us.
What is his curse?
Oedipus,
Oh.
like the Oedipus complex,
Yeah.
exists in all of our psyches because of
You don't think there's anybody before Sophocles that was like, you're gonna desire to have sex with your mother?
I think there are sick people at all times.
Yeah. But he made it famous.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, be careful what you write down. Don't go making stories about blowing up the moon or the sun.
It's done. It's still do on. But to your point about multiculturalism, I think we do have to be on guard against the pernicious ideas But have we ever had like a melting pot before? In
Babylon, Persian.
you know, Rome was actually multicultural in the later Republic.
Interesting.
Um, so we've tried this thing before.
Yeah. Importing the best and the brightest actually seems like a very good idea.
Right.
Exporting the less smart, less desirable people, I don't know is morally justifiable, especially if they're citizens.
Agreed.
But I think that we can have that one-way bridge because those individuals we import will be a net gain to society around us. But
What if they come with terrible ideas?
yeah, I mean, then now we just imported the supervillains. So
Right? Yeah. Reminds me of this thing Buffett said. It's like, you know, we really look for three traits in people. We want to make sure they're working, we want to make sure they're bright, and we want to make sure that they're ethical. And usually you can get by with like just 2 out of 3 of those, except listen, ethics, stay the hell away from us. Don't want any right?
unethical people. Seriously. So like the minimum, like Christians have the creed. Like, do you believe that Jesus was God? No? Okay. You're not in our camp. You might be brilliant, but you can be something else. Like, do you want to be American?
That should be a good filter for citizenship.
One would think. One would think.
I was talking to my parents about their citizenship test, and one of the questions they got asked was, if America goes war to, this was in the 90s, with Afghanistan, whose side would you fight on?
Oh, wow. Going right there, huh?
Right? Yeah, so
Dang.
that's the thing we ask of citizens.
Yeah.
And I mean, my parents said, well, I'm a citizen of this country now, so I'd have to
But,
fight
like,
for this side.
I mean, how long have they been here before they have to answer that test?
We came in June of 1990, and I think they got naturalized in Clinton's first term, so 496.
Okay. My sister in Switzerland had to wait 10 years before she could take the naturalization test. So, all right. But you've been here, you've been building a life.
I think that gap between a Switzerland and an America, and you know, America is not one state either. It's also a river. The America of the 90s and Switzerland of today, I think that's part of the reason they're having such a hard time with Muslims there, turning into such a toxic.
I don't think they have a problem in Switzerland. I think they have it all around Switzerland. But I think Switzerland's actually done a very good job, not just assimilating anybody or not just allowing anybody to come into the system.
Okay, so that's an assumption on my part. Do you happen to know what the naturalization timeframes are in the other countries?
No, I know that their borders are a lot more porous because Switzerland isn't part of the EU.
So you don't get the Schengen whatever zone.
Yeah.
That's like the common zone in Euro where you can just hop on a train and move between borders if you have nationality in any one of the countries.
Yeah.
The benefit of multiculturalism here in America, at least, it's not just that we get the best and the brightest. It's that we are meritocracy first, and we blind ourselves purposely to the other things because they matter a lot less than just can you do the thing the best. I think that's the benefit of the melting pot here.
I think that's one of the concepts that our multiculturalism is trying to destroy.
Don't look for the best.
Specifically, look for the people that are not white, regardless of their capacity to do the job.
So you know how affirmative action at the universities was recently overturned in the Ivy Leagues. Guess what's happened?
Well, have they started hiring or admitting a bunch more white people?
No,
Less?
I don't know what the white ratio has done. A lot more Asians. Asians have doubled.
Goodness, they've been the most discriminated out of everybody.
They have.
I think it was actually an Asian person who sued, and actually that's what got to the Supreme Court. So it's about darn time.
And you know how the New York Times framed it?
What?
It's like black rates haven't risen. So you're right. That's what I'm getting at. Like multiculturalism is the enemy of meritocracy. It seems, at least in the Ivy League system.
But it doesn't have to be. It's like it's multiculturalism for the sake of multiculturalism, and I think we put the cart before the horse here.
Yeah.
And I think that the rebrand here is, well, you're just all white nationalists. Okay. that's a clever rebrand because I am white and I'm also a nationalist. So
Yeah.
you're not wrong. I'm also a Christian and a nationalist. So I guess I'm a Christian nationalist, but that's a slur. That's a slur. Oh well, you're one of those far right crazies who's like definitely trying to kill all the black people and the Jews and the I don't know.
Yeah, what's really been funny to me is how um the left has not attacked Asians or Chinese people because
It doesn't work with their intersectionality.
yeah. But I mean that's what's happening.
You're not white, but you're also really hardworking, and we can't really support you because then we'll look like we're supporting meritocracy. So we don't know what to do with you.
Because the multiculturalism that you're arguing against is like a forced
Yes.
board, right?
It is good for different people to be together. Why? Because it's good for different people to be together.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
And those people have not criticized. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like those people who, want the multicolored pizza pie just for the multicolors, they haven't criticized the growing number of Asians and Chinese in the upper echelons of American society. Like if you go to San Francisco, I mean it's like all Indian and Chinese people, like who are running the tech companies.
The tech companies, yeah.
When I went to the New York office, 2/3 of the people there were Chinese and Indian PhDs who just knew how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So like those places are getting homogenized.
But at least they're not white people.
At least, yeah, right.
I'm telling you, this is an anti-white agenda. And so, yeah, I mean, force me into being racist, I guess. But yeah, I actually don't think there's anything wrong with being white.
I honestly don't either. I do think you guys are diminishing. Like I think the future of America is not white. I think it is. The projections have it is like mostly Latino. The Asian mix of Chinese and Indian. But to your point, I like white people are just another culture among many. I think maybe that's the criticism. Like, I think that's like the Steelman version of the multiculturalism argument I've heard is that white is not a culture. You can say Scottish, you can say Irish, you can say German, but white in itself is not a.
Is black a culture?
It shouldn't be.
And yet,
So African American is, right? Like, and I'd argue that it's a seriously diseased culture.
but there's
I'm gonna get in
Nigerian
trouble.
culture, Moroccan culture, South African culture. It's just African American culture. In the same way, there's definitely white culture.
So I was gonna say African American I think is separate from all of the cultures back in the homeland because you have 400 years of slavery, and that is like the defining feature of African American culture here.
I don't think you're going to get a really positive, healthy culture if you go back to Africa.
I don't know enough about African culture to make a statement about
We
it.
know that they're the least developed continent on the planet.
I mean,
And it's not for lack of resources.
but you're not counting Egypt. Like that was the Nile, right? They had the advanced civilization before everyone else.
Okay. Now accept Egypt.
Except Egypt. So okay, you think something's weird with sub-Saharan Africa.
I think something is seriously wrong with like every other part of Africa.
So
Maybe it's geography. Maybe it's this particular massive landmass that has a gigantic desert running through it. I don't know.
I don't know the reasons for Africa's lack of development, but I would be very hesitant about making statements about the success or longevity of the cultures. Because up until recently, China wasn't developed. Like in the 60s, they were going backwards because of communism, right?
Right?
So I don't know if they rode waves and they're just like on a down wave right now and have been for the last 50, 100
That
years.
makes a lot more sense because we know they've been incredible civilization for, I mean, they invented paper money, they invented fireworks, they invented all this.
Right.
So like the Chinese are definitely like, hey, don't try communism, kids. They are a powerful civilization that took a bad turn. But I don't think that you could ever really say that about any other African country besides Egypt. There was Mansa Musa.
That's what I was going to point to. And he wasn't from Egypt. He was from Mali, I want to say.
I don't even know where Mali is.
I don't either.
Somewhere in Africa. That's literally the only ruler I can think of on the African continent. The Islamic empire was massive. They contributed greatly to art and science and history and culture. The European culture has been massive and dominant on the planet. The American culture has been massive and dominant and produced brilliant innovations.
So what about South America then? Because you don't have the global scale, but some of those cultures are.
Elon Musk, I guess he's putting them on the map.
Maybe I misspoke.
South Africa is what I was thinking. South America. What about South America?
We knew the Aztecs, right? They have
That's Central
longevity.
America.
Okay, Central.
The Incas had this really incredible empire in the Andes in South America.
So are we just using longevity? Because neither the Incas nor the Aztecs were global in their reach,
Yeah, they also had human sacrifice. So,
right? Huge misstep.
yeah, I mean,
I think Africa might have some of that, or it has had recently. I don't know.
there's definitely a lot of
All right.
paganism.
I'm asking the AI if anyone's going to be able to give a good example of great African cultures. It'll be the woke AI.
I'm going to do South America. Oh, no, I'm not.
We're totally getting canceled for this part of the podcast. All right, I put it on thinking. I don't know if it does a better job with thinking, but just seeing it have that little loading screen makes me think that it does.
Okay, Incan Empire comes up for South America, and then something called Tiwanaku.
Sounds Mexican.
It's South American somehow. They were field agriculturalists from 500 to 1000 AD. So for 500 years, somehow they survived, and I've never heard of them. The Wari Empire, I've never heard of, was also 600 to 1000. The Norte Chico civilization was 3000 to 1800 BC. So, short answer, I don't have good South American
Empire education.
So the AI is going to try to convince me that this lack of education is also going to be the root of our view on Africa. So they're pointing to a few prominent cultures here. First is something called the Kanem Bornu Empire.
Never heard of it.
Me neither. They're pointing to it because of longevity. So they're saying 700s to 1900, so 1200 years. It lasted. It was located around Lake Chad. Looks like it was a trade hub.
Okay.
So trans-Sahara trade. They ended up stopping here, I guess, when they increased it. The next one they point to is the Benin Empire, 1100 to 1897, and they're pointing to this one because they had a really well-planned city.
So two empires now have been crushed right around the 1900s. So what happened in 1900 that ended both of these empires?
I'm going to point to
The Caliphate? The Ottoman Turks, the Ottoman Empire?
probably. I was going to actually say the Great Game, with which the Ottomans were part of, but they lost.
I don't know what the Great Game is.
Great Game. Oh, it was the battle to see who could have more colonies, the right word, among European states. So instead of fighting in Europe for many decades during the late 1800s, early 1900s, they'd have these proxy wars.
They're just gobbling up other states.
Yeah,
I guess we're still doing that. Venezuela.
yeah. I was telling
Greenland.
you, it's and you know what happened
Cuba.
after World War One.
Oh, okay.
So it's a bad parallel.
Mm,
That's what I was talking about this morning.
yeah.
But these guys, the Benin Empire, they had a Benin city, which was a city laid out using fractal geometry.
What?
Yeah,
I would, if you had given me 10 guesses, I would not have guessed this was somewhere in Africa.
right. Same. So they're pointing to the kingdom in Uganda for having medical knowledge. So they knew to use banana wine as an antiseptic when doing surgery.
Uganda is just absolutely impoverished and backwards and oppressive.
And then number 5, they say Ethiopia was considered one of the 4 great powers of the ancient world, alongside Rome, Persia, and China. They had massive monoliths, over 100 feet tall, as examples of their engineering prowess. They had their own script, they had their own gold coinage. They adopted Christianity as a state religion.
I only knew that there was Ethiopian Christians and they had their own Ethiopian canon, but I did not know that they were one of the great 4 ancient empires.
So this is making me think, and I'm in no way like still educated enough to have a firm opinion on this, but it's making me think more the wave dynamic. Like Africa has had periods of majesty or whatever, glory, whatever, and right now they're on a down wave. I mean, the HIV epidemic. I hear terrible stories of people saying that they would rather rape children than risk getting a wife because HIV is so prevalent. So clearly something sick is happening in many countries in Africa.
Wow.
But to get back to our point, African Americans, I think, are distinct from all other African cultures. You hear examples of like African immigrants coming in here and succeeding. Like they work hard, they improve their lot in life.
Yeah.
And yet African Americans can't do that because they're stuck in the cycles of broken houses and
Victimhood.
Yeah.
They were legitimate victims, and now that they're no longer legitimate victims, they're having trouble letting go of that victimhood.
but I
The
mean
only reason you can't get ahead is because Whitey's keeping you down.
like you said, ideas though are like viruses, and this is a culture that was a group of people that for centuries were victims and fed some of the worst ideas that you guys are subhuman, you deserve this, we are the only way you can make it in this world. God has made you at this station in life. I have to imagine some of that is internalized, and it's a sad state of affairs. What I think of that.
LBJ didn't do them any favors by incentivizing single motherhood. And there is an apocryphal quote attributed to him. I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 50 years.
You know, I wouldn't put it past him. I think I read about one of his Congress deals, and I got confused just reading about it. He was like triple crossing like 4 different groups.
Wow.
And, like, the guy had it.
No principles.
Let's just say, if he had put his mind to chess, he would have been really good at it.
Hmm.
Do you want to finish up with talking about our dear leader?
Yes.
So,
Talk about our dear leader. May he live forever.
what truths has he issued that to your ears?
I have not done any listening. I saw a
YouTube video that he recently signed something to do with psychedelics with Joe Rogan.
That would
Because why not?
be something I would support.
So I mean, when I read it, I was actually like, I'm torn because I do not want pot to be legalized. I think that was a huge mistake. But the language, at least that this was couched in, was doctors need to start listening to their patients and giving them more options to deal with their illnesses. But that's exactly the same language they use to legalize pot. And so now we're just going to have people doing all kinds of mushrooms and psychedelics.
Take a brief moment to talk about pot. I am in favor of the legalization of it because it means less people in jail. I don't think someone should be in jail for smoking. I think they're making a terrible life decision if they smoke every day.
Okay.
But I don't think
That was my argument before smelling it every day. My argument was, you know what? When it's legal, we can just tax the heck out of it, raise a bunch of revenue, and those people will be disincentivized financially. Well, that didn't happen.
no.
Now
There's a whole paycheck on it.
there's a bunch of pot stores all over the neighborhood. That's like, let us install poverty in your neighborhood. It looks like a weed store. Here you go. Now it's going to smell like poverty. It's going to look like poverty, and it's going to cause poverty wherever you go.
You know what else? Great markers of poverty that the weed stores have joined. Gun stores, drive-through liquor, payday loans.
Payday loans, yeah. Cigarette stores. Why is it that also you've got the center of power downtown, and then immediately around the center of power you have just like blight? It's like
Because
this.
you had everyone flee. That's the dynamic. People came there to start the city, right? That's where the river was.
Yeah.
The rich folk immediately left. The Wrigley family,
Uh-huh.
Wrigley Gum,
Uh-huh.
their mansion was on 24th Street, so already like 9 miles away.
Okay.
Frank Lloyd Wright, I think, is
Way back up here.
like 30 miles away.
Uh-huh.
Right? So the rich people immediately were like, oh, we don't like being around the commons. So they went out. And then as the city got richer and richer, everyone who could pay to get out got out.
But why is it that you've got the extraordinarily rich, huge skyrise buildings, and then right next to it is the blight?
Yeah.
That's weird. It's like a topographical phenomenon. It's like you have only so much wealth to spread around, and you can just hyper concentrate it right at this point, and then everything else is going to be dirt poor.
That's what New York always reminded me of. It's like the shining jewel with
Just a
dozens of
bunch of trash.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
like that happens. Maybe it's just. I mean, doesn't cancer do the same thing or mold? Like you get like these
Nucleation sites.
yeah, with lots of really ugly uniformity all around it.
Hmm. I switched. I flipped it from something that I was uncomfortable talking about to something I was comfortable talking about. It had to do with poverty. Drugs.
Psychedelics and
Yeah.
yeah, the prison thing, and then the other thing, I think pot is a better substance than alcohol. Like alcohol kills. It destroys people's bodies.
You think drugs are better than alcohol?
Not specifically.
You think pot's less bad than alcohol?
Yeah, and I think the science, I'm like 80%, 85% confident the science backs me up on that. For your body. Like, let's not talk about light motivation. The rest of it.
Alcohol destroys your liver.
Yep.
And it's an addictive substance, but so is pot.
Alcohol is addictive in a different way, where your body can become dependent on it. And if you cease consuming, you will die.
Your withdrawal will be so severe, your body will,
Yeah.
you'll just die.
Yeah. Alcohol is one of the few drugs like that. So if, you have an alcoholic in your family, instead of,
You can't cold turkey it.
no, you have to have them, like if it's bad enough, you have to have them be medically supervised as they clean themselves off. Otherwise, they'll,
I've never heard of that.
I think that is a scientific fact.
I can't draw the line, and my brother-in-law brought this up when I was thinking whether or not to vote for or against weed. He's like, well, I mean, are you going to vote to ban alcohol too? And I was like, should I?
That would be we tried that though.
We did.
Terrible.
I'm not convinced it was terrible.
Didn't we have organized crime spring up everywhere?
Yes. But just because people commit crime doesn't mean, well, we should just not ban murder. People are just going to murder anyway, so we should just. I think that was born out of specifically the women's suffrage movement.
It was, yeah.
Saying, like, we're sick and tired of our husbands coming home drunk, and we're going to do something about it. And I deeply admire that. I think that's awesome.
I appreciate where it came from, and I think it was a move in the right direction, but it failed. I think you have to admit that
it definitely failed.
But with psychedelics, I think that's a step in the right direction with care. They can be good tools, but if we're gonna like just sell them at the store, like weed shops, we're in for some weird times. I won't linger on long, but I've used psychedelics regularly. Not regularly. You can't become addicted to the thing because which is a good way. I've maybe 12 to 15 times in my life I've used psychedelics.
Mushrooms or what?
Mushrooms and LSD. And they're the same, essentially, as far as the effects.
Psychoactive components of the same chemical compound.
They're not the same chemical compound, but subjectively,
they have the same effect on your brain?
It's subjectively, yeah, it's very similar. It's like whiskey versus beer, right?
Wow.
I think molecularly, those two are different. Like vodka versus whiskey versus beer.
Oh, I don't know. I would assume it's all alcohol, but I guess I don't know if there's different alcohol groups. I would assume that if you've got a different psychedelic active compound, that it does something unique in the brain. And so, whereas this might have you see very spirally fun lines, this one's going to make you think that your arms are falling off. I don't know. So what were your experiences?
I don't think we need to get into my specific experiences. But the reasons I think it's a bad idea to have it be widely available is it undoes the mental mapping, like the isms that we have to understand reality. This week is gray. I'm sitting here with my close friend and neighbor discussing the world. That is a computer. Those high level abstractions fall away, and you see things like at a more component level, which can be a good or bad, right? Like if you have,
it can be overwhelming.
It is absolutely overwhelming. But say you have like really bad association with, right? You just hate broccoli because you had this terrible experience as a kid. You by kind of doing that, looking at the building blocks again, you could possibly come out of it be like, oh, broccoli's just another vegetable. There's no reason for me to hate it. On the other hand, you could, when looking at building blocks of your own brain and psyche, come back out of it thinking that you are Jesus Christ reincarnated and you
Right.
are the Messiah
Right.
to usher in the end times.
Yeah.
Happens all the time with regular psychedelic users.
Right. I was literally talking to one this past month.
Yeah, you told me about that. That's tragic.
Don't do drugs, kids. Not worth the risk. I think that's why this is the common trope of someone on psychedelics. Whoa.
I saw this great comic of someone staring at their hands. It's like, I control these with my mind. I just think and they move. I have all the power of good and evil at my
Which is
fingertips.
all true. And we just don't think about it.
Maybe you don't. Sometimes you just got to brush your teeth and do the thing, like instead of sit and ponder. But this comic I loved because after it zooms out, you see a baby in like a car seat staring at his hands.
It's so true. It's wild. Like we think, and it is freaking mind blowing that Elon Musk can now have a full person be able to control a computer with their brain. But it's like, yeah, that is happening. Like those things are actually happening in the brain. And it's just so mind blowing that we just can't even think about it on a regular basis.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely,
Don't do drugs.
it's a risk. Be aware of the risk. You make your own choices.
Can't we just like legalize it for like, all right, you're terminal. We're gonna stop like denying you experimental treatments. That I can totally get behind. But just like, whatever, your body, your choice.
I like
No.
that actually. Like you have to have a doctor's prescription for it. But we abuse that with weed, right? Like that's how it starts. Like you have to have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I think I fall back. I think I'm becoming more conservative. You owe a duty to society. You are not your own. You are a component of a larger corpus. And while you are unique and individual, you are also not just responsible for you.
Have a web that you need to maintain.
That sounds very, very much like a commune to me.
We're social creatures. Like, I mean, isn't that the heart of what we are?
Yeah, like we are our brother's keepers. Like we don't want to be, but we think we want to be completely autonomous and independent.
But that's just not how we're born. To get to complete autonomy and independence, you have to essentially hurt your close connections, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you run off into, I think I told you about my cousin who just ran off from his family to join the Taliban. That's essentially what you'd have to do. You'd have to
Forsake.
people that care about you. Yeah, you'd have to forsake them. That's just wrong, however you look at it.
Yeah. But he's his own person. Can he not do what he wants? No. Because like you're not going to make it. If you're born into the world fully autonomous, you will die.
That's true, right? We don't start walking on.
We owe a duty at the very least to our parents and then something else.
Getting back to the main container of this topic, you saw him talk about psychedelics. I saw our dear leader talk about the Pope and how he's weak on crime. But I want to ask, did you see what came next?
Did the Pope tweet at him?
No, the Pope has been very Pope-like, and
Good for the Pope.
I mean he has said, I am not scared of this administration. I'm not going to argue politics, but I will preach what I believe, which is that Christ was the Prince of Peace, and we should speak against war.
Yeah.
So he's kept his retorts very, very elegant and composed. But what I want to talk a little bit about is after our dear leader issued his critique of the Pope, he posted an AI image of himself in a white robe with a red like scarf / the tabernacle type thing, and he was in the center. There was like a halo around him. There were these flying beings up in the corner. There were people looking at him in wonder. There was a sick man on a bed, and he was reaching out to heal the sick man. What does that sound like to you? Do you want to look up the image, actually?
It sounds like the same kind of irreverence that he says, praise be to Allah.
Right? I think he is a man who deeply hates religion. Because of how many people have gone to war. There it is.
This is okay. So what this is it's not the correct formulation to call it Christian nationalism, because side tangent. The other day we saw a flagpole with a Christian flag on top and an American flag underneath, and I said, "That's bad flag etiquette. You're not supposed to fly the American flag underneath any of the other flags that you like." And I said, and at the same time,
I support it.
I support it because I'm a Christian first and an American second. And what this is this is an American first and a Christian second trying to co-opt the Christians, saying, "This is your savior. You need to fall in line with whatever he says." And so this is something I clearly reject. But I think of all the Christian sects, there's actually a church in the valley right now run by a man called Mark Driscoll, and he is clearly just in the religion to get rich, right? He's doing it to make himself a name and be rich, and so he's latched onto this MAGA movement with the Christian flavor, and so all of his sermons are all just about rah Trump and all the things. So like that's definitely who this is for.
Yeah, it's very pragmatic. Very.
It's also disgusting.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people supposedly were very angry. So I'm glad that
This is a
their
really
reaction, too.
stupid move for his base.
He took it down immediately, and then his response when called out on it was like, "Did you post that picture of yourself as Jesus?" And it's like, "I did post it. It was me, but I was a doctor." So
Wow. Nasty.
the reason I'm bringing that up is, one, I wanted to get your reaction. So I'm glad that your reaction was also discussed, because I think that is the consistent with Christianity is the most important to you. But also, another consequence of this strange timeline we're all living in is the Iranians also condemned it. They said it is blasphemous to pretend you are a prophet of God. Jesus is holy to us.
That was a good. You're right. They have a really good meme game.
They do.
They have a good online presence.
They do.
Man.
So everyone's joking is like, I did not expect the 2026 Shia Catholic alliance.
Man, if that came out of this, that would be an incredible outcome. Oh my gosh.
Hopefully something good comes out of this. But last thing maybe we should end on is for the war. I'm going to make a tentative projection. Because I view this, I think the biggest mistake most Americans are making today is that they are treating this as just another adventure by our country that we can turn off at any point, instead of what I am viewing as a clash of civilizations. Iran is the Persian Empire, which has been around for 7,000 years, and they are definitely on a downwave, right? They are under a despotic regime, cast out from the global world order with a greatly suffering populace. But they are a 7,000-year-old civilization that in this moment feels like their civilizational existence is over.
And I can understand why you would say that based on Trump's tweet that he's going to just wipe out an entire civilization. I think the divergence I would have there is that we are explicitly not at war with the Persians. We're at war with the IRGC. And the color revolution media that I watch is always about, let's fly the Persian flag, which is still green, white, and red, but it just has the lion, the Persian lion, instead of the IRGC moon
Symbol.
and star. Yeah.
I hope you're right, but my tentative hypothesis, subject to change because none of us really know what's happening when war happens, is that I think that Iranian people are becoming more and more fused with the IRGC because they see this as a threat on a civilizational scale. And if that's the case, right? If we have threatened a civilization that is now opposed to us, this could go on for years and very easily escalate to other nearby civilizations. So that my tentative guess is that this does run into 2027, and I don't see a way this ends without either massive bloodshed or us allowing Iran to become a world power, which would be catastrophic in a completely different way, given how despotic the current regime is. Because if they control the Strait of Hormuz,
Mhm.
they get
50% of the oil that comes out of the.
they get a seat at the table for all global decisions, right? They become on par with China because of their not because of size. They become on par with Russia, not because of their nuclear capability, but they become a global presence because at any point in time they can just put global oil supply in a chokehold.
They've been able to do that this whole time.
But they've never exercised it, and everyone thought it was just a hypothetical, right?
They exercised it in the 70s.
I do not think that they blocked the Strait of Hormuz even in the 70s.
And then why was it an oil shock?
Because Iraq went to war with Iran, two major oil producing countries were not producing. So I'm going to ask the AI real quick if the Strait of Hormuz has ever been closed before. I think this is the first. So, two tentative predictions there. I think this conflict lasts into 2027. And the only way it ends is either with boots on the ground or we cede the strait to
Iran.
the regime. But I've been surprised plenty of times. I hope I'm surprised again.
I really hope we're not fusing the Persian people with the IRGC. I hope that we're giving them an opportunity to throw them off.
All right, so the AI says prior to the event of 2026, Strait of Hormuz has never been officially or completely closed, despite decades of geopolitical tension and frequent.
But is it completely closed right now?
I guess not. Like one or two ships are there getting through. So in the tanker war in the 80s, Iran and Iraq began attacking each other, shipping exports. In 1988, we launched an operation to protect shipping lanes. But it says that the strait remained open to international. Iran explicitly avoided closing the strait to prevent full-scale foreign intervention.
No, there is full-scale foreign intervention. Of course, they close the strait.
Yeah.
Iran War, 84 to 88 was the Iran-Iraq War, the tanker war, and then 2011 to 2012. 27 December, the Iranian Vice President Mahmoud Reza Rahimi threatened to cut off the oil supply from the strait should economic sanctions limit or cut off Iranian oil exports. So they're just going to keep using this as a threat to get whatever they want.
But yeah, and now that they've done it, and we see they're capable of it, like I think the threat has become more powerful. Like the guy who says, "I'm going to punch you in the face," "I'm going to punch you in the face."
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you become numb to it, but then he actually punches you in the face. I'm like, oh man, this guy's actually bored.
I think that Trump did exactly this kind of same thing to Kim Jong-un. He called his bluff.
And he got that guy to shut up.
So that would have been the better case scenario, right? The guy, you call his bluff and he chickens out. He doesn't punch you in the face.
Yep.
We called their bluff and they actually punched us.
Yeah. But they had to punch through China to get to us, which I think was.
So my understanding is it takes about 6 weeks for ships to make the full transit out of
China to the Hormuz?
out of Hormuz to most destinations.
Okay.
So we're right at that mark where
Interesting. Where we're going to actually start to see those oil shortages start happening.
if they're going to happen, right?
But economics is smarter than the tanker, is ahead of the tankers. They're going to see that coming.
So the markets,
I give people too much credit.
you give people are retarded. Ever since 2020, markets have more accelerating in 2023 with ChatGPT. Markets have become increasingly bad at pricing risk. I'm predicting events.
Yeah. It's all just been stonks go up.
Yep.
Interesting. This is going to be something to behold when it all collapses.
Thanks for tuning in to the Manifold Podcast. We hope you learned something you didn't know about the opposite side of one of your positions. If you want to see the fact checks in real time, you can watch the podcast on YouTube. We'd love to get your feedback on what you enjoyed and what we can improve on. You can send an email to themanifoldpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, keep listening to one another.